Robservations with Robert Meyer Burnett.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your evangelist of the imagination, and of course, the as-yet undefined existential Mr. Rogers, Robert Meyer Burnett. And I'm, of course, robcasting at you imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community. This is Robservations, episode number 736. Wow. I want to thank you all for being here today. Now, there's something, this is, of course, Robservations, the show about something. And I wanted to start with, before I get into today's topic, I wanted to talk about yesterday's show. Now, of course, I went and saw Shang-Chi yesterday at the El Capitan, and I tweeted about it after I saw it, and of course did a show where I gave you some preliminary thoughts, not a review or anything, because it's embargoed. I don't really do reviews all the time on this channel. You know, I'll tell you what I think of something. Sometimes I'll do a review, and if it's fun, maybe, you know, but I don't, this is not normally a review channel. But man, so a lot of people came out of the woodwork after me because I used the word triumphant when describing this movie. And a lot of people, to be honest, I didn't really read a lot of responses to this because I wanted to go in cold, see how I liked it. And apparently a lot of people used the word triumphant. And because there was that, a couple years ago, there were a lot of Fox-owned stations that were making a statement about sort of their mission statement. They all use the same language. All the different stations use the same language. That there was there's a couple of accusations made that I was a shill for Disney. That somehow, I still, this cracks me up whenever anybody talks about it. That Disney is apparently paying people who are part of the access media for shilling for them. First of all, I'm not a part of the access media. I don't get invited to screenings. If John Campea takes me somewhere, I'll go. And look, I was raised a Jew, and my whole life I've heard about the Zionist-occupied government and how Jews want to take over the world. I want you to know, I'm still waiting. And if there is a super secret cabal of Jews who control the planet, look, I could be a stealth Jew. I mean, I was raised a Jew. I was bar mitzvahed. I had to learn Hebrew. I was raised by a Jewish family. So if there is a secret organization of Jews that run the world, sign me up. Let me join your ranks and pay me whatever riches that I am deserved, or that I do deserve, because I can be your stealth Jew. So I'm still waiting for that to happen. It hasn't. And the idea that I'm a paid shill, I'll flat out tell you, hey, if any of the studios out there want to buy my opinion, I mean, I just passed 41,000 subscribers. Thank you all. This channel also passed 6 million views. Thank you for that. I wouldn't do it without you. But I'll tell you this. If anyone out there wants to buy my point of view or buy my reviews, if Alex Kurtzman came to me and said, Rob, I will pay you a substantial sum of money if you stop saying that you fucking hate my terrible Star Trek show. Would you take the money? Would you have this money, Rob? I would say, yes, Mr. Kurtzman, pay me. My opinion is for sale. If you want to buy my opinion and buy my work, if you want me to work for you and I would consider that work, I am happy to do so. And I would fully disclose that, yes, my opinion is bought and it's paid for. But here's the thing. My opinion isn't bought and paid for. I am not a part of the access media. I'm not a part of the Zionist-occupied, the fictitious, ridiculous Zionist-occupied government. Although if there was such a thing, sign me up. But yeah, so it's just absurd that people are saying that you shill. It kind of cracks me up because I'm wondering, having worked at the studio, where's the shill department? Can you call them up? Like, I guess it would be a secret cabal within the marketing department of the studios. Let me tell you something. I get excited about things. I have a childlike enthusiasm for certain things, and I grew up reading the Shang-Chi comics. So I was really excited to see this movie. Now, is Shang-Chi, the Legend of the Ten Rings, is it like the Shang-Chi comics I was reading? Is it like Master of Kung Fu when I was a kid? No, it is not. The Master of Kung Fu... Well, anyway, let me just give you a sample of what was left in the comments section. I'm going to share them with you. I'm going to share these comments with you. Here they are. Vlad Cirrus says, a lot of comparisons with Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, but I don't think that's fair. It's not a fantasy movie. With the exception of the floating stuff, it's a very realistic movie, a lot of political talk and such. That's what made it work so well. It's not a made-up world. You know what? All I can tell you is that I would wait and see. Darkside Jones says, you and like 30 reviewers had the same wording, shilling for access to Hollywood much. I don't have to shill for access to Hollywood. If I want to go see a movie or something, I can pick up the phone and probably get myself into screening tickets or whatever. I don't need to shill for access to Hollywood. I do not. Jim Alaska says, absolute triumph equals shill. And then Orange Hand came to my defense and said, so he's a shill for liking a movie? Give me a break. Jim Alaska says, research all the people who use the word triumph in their reviews and reactions. It's fishy. Well, I would tell you, I'll tell you why people use the word triumph in their reviews. Because, this year, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has put out a lot of things that have divided people, whether it was WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, and also Black Widow. I think what I first thought about when I saw Shang-Chi was I thought to myself, this is a triumph. It's a triumph. It puts Marvel right back on top where it belongs. And it was a wildly entertaining movie. And to me, it's not a stretch. I could have said it was awesome or it was terrific, but the first word that came to my mind was triumph. And I think a lot of people thought of the same thing. And what's interesting is, do you think that if we were all paid shills, that Disney would actually give us talking points so we all said the same thing? It would be too obvious then that we were shilling for Disney. But I don't even know anyone. I've never actually heard of anyone who's paid to give good reviews. Maybe it makes me sad because I'm not enough of a big influencer. But maybe when I reach, 300,000 or 400,000 or 500,000 subs, I'm waiting. So studios, if you want to send me a check and pay me to shill for you, I'll do it. I'll do it well, too. So, hey, then people understand that I was talking about wuxia movies and all that, and they got it. Simon Wilde says, I smell Marvel shillery here, and what with a certain Hebrew-flavored movie in need of exposure simultaneously, coincidence is the logical thinking of a fool. And then Orange Hand says, or maybe he genuinely likes the movie. And then Simon Wilde comes back and says, or maybe he needs his little project to get some assisted traction in exchange for an enthusiastic voice within a certain critical sphere of fandom. I love that people are thinking this way. Let me tell you something. While both Shang-Chi and Tango Shalom are movies, and yes, Tango Shalom does in fact open in New York and LA on the same day as Shang-Chi, yeah, I freely admit, I'll do whatever I can. If I can piggyback to Shang-Chi and maybe get people in the theaters and tell them, hey, why not go see a double feature? I'll fucking do that. Do you think I wouldn't? I've worked on a movie for 5 years and now it's finally coming out theatrically. I'll do everything I can to get people to go see the movie. But I can assure you, no one is paying me from Disney to say what I liked about the film. Comic Book Steals and Deals said, triumph. Lots of people feel the exact same. I also noticed the people calling it triumphant have changed the enunciation to Shang-Chi. No more Shang. It makes it sound more like Shenzhen, the only cultural road marker regular Americans have to the rich Chinese culture. Well, Comic Book Steals and Deals, I would say once you've seen the movie, you will understand why everyone who sees this film will start saying the Shang-Chi. They'll all be saying that, and so will you. And I would say, see the film first, and then you'll get it. Jose Arocha says, I think it's Arocha, says, I got to go to an early screening here in San Diego, and I can't wait to see it again. I don't think it's better than Black Panther, but it's a fantastic movie. It had a great turnout and had several standing ovations. I hope people turn out on release day because this is a great martial arts fantasy epic. Yes, it is. I dare say it's a triumphant Chinese martial arts fantasy epic in the MCU. Mavis Beacon says, absolute triumph somehow shows up in one form or another in nearly every critic review. Safiro says the interest for this movie before yesterday was at -50, so Disney pulled out the wallet hard. They're probably paying an extra $1,000 per word used like triumph, etc. Really? Because I didn't get my check. You can PayPal me or Venmo me if you want. Safiro says, they don't care. It's obvious. It looks like desperate effort at saving this movie from bombing harder than Black Widow. Mavis Bacon says, good point. It's unlikely that this movie will break even unless a miracle happens. Darth Dragonborn says, you also got to love him saying it's top tier and doesn't get any better, and then, of course, uses Black Panther as an example because that's nowhere near the best, and then hesitates, shit, I can't actually say it's better than the best movies. I guess it's on par with Winter Soldier, even though I just said it's the best Marvel movie. Laugh out loud. And then William Lee says, why is this movie so triumphant across the internet? Mavis Bacon says, got to get those swag bags. There were no swag bags at the screening I went to, and we would hate to upset our mouse overlord and not get invited to the next one. Well, considering I've done a couple of shows on the Scarlett Johansson situation and came out in favor of Scarlett Johansson, well, what can I say? Chris Wigglesworth says, I wanted the same thing. Safiro says, that's the key word the puppets have to use, so Disney invites them for the Eternals world premiere. I've never been invited to an MCU world premiere, but I'm willing to go. As everyone knows, for the last 6 years I've said Kevin Feige is the Lord and Savior of comic book films, but I haven't been invited anywhere. Not by them. Disney must have been desperate because they realized they made a movie nobody asked for and nobody wanted to see. Anyway, and Chris Revel says the triumphant reaction of the access media for that movie makes me want to wait until it's available on illegal streaming. Lord Thundercock says this review is triumphant. Press Play Streaming Studio says, I had a friend who hated Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon until I asked a simple question. Would you be able to accept the action if the hero was wearing blue tights and a red cape? He then rewatched it with that in mind and loved it, which I love. And here's a good criticism, actually. Screebed 1076 says, why do most Americans think Asia equals China? Actually, I don't. When I think of Asia, I think about Japan, Korea, Vietnam, Cambodia, and, India, I guess, depending on how you want to look at China too. But Asian American, he's actually referring to Chinese Americans. So people from India, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Thailand, the Philippines are not Asian. Yes, they are. Why not call it as it is? Chinese superhero, Chinese American. Vast majority of Asians are not Chinese. That is a very good point, and I stand corrected. I just... Darth Dragonborn says, because it's the same as the left's PC use of African American when black person doesn't mean Africa, like at all, laugh out loud. Even Morgan Freeman says this shit. It's true. Anyway, why am I bringing all this up? Anyone who's watched this channel for the last 2.5 years knows I talk about, well, the shit I like. I mean, I don't know how many times I have to say it, but I grew up reading Master of Kung Fu. I love the Doug Mensch, Paul Gulacy run on the comic. Doug Mensch, his work obviously I loved it on Moon Knight. And this film, one of the things I really loved about Shang-Chi was the fact that it surprised me. It was not at all the movie I thought I was going to get based on the comic books or based on the trailers that I had seen. And one of the things that I felt so amazed by was, like I said, this film was very heartfelt. It had a scope and that I wasn't expecting, and the embracing of the wuxia genre was something I didn't expect or didn't know was coming. And when the film was over, I'll tell you, I felt it was a triumphant return to form for Marvel. That's why I said it. And that brings me to today's topic. In the last 24 hours, we've had 2 trailers drop for things that I have been very excited for. One is Chloe Zhao's adaptation of The Eternals, and the other is the latest trailer, the latest trailer for the long gestating adaptation of Isaac Asimov's Foundation trilogy. Now, I'm going to tell all of you, and I want to be very clear about this. Oh, and also more TV spots for Denis Villeneuve's Dune. These are 3 properties, 3 IPs, 3 franchises, call it what you will, that I have loved since I was 10 years old. I read Kirby's Eternal comics when they first came out in the mid-'70s. I read the Foundation trilogy. It was one of the first books I bought from the Science Fiction Book Club when I was 10. And, of course, Dune was also one of the books that I bought from the Science Fiction Book Club when I joined up when I was 10. This is not my actual copy. This is a picture of Isaac Asimov's Foundation trilogy. And this is the first book. I mean, he's written more, but this was the first collection. It was Foundation, and Empire, and the second Foundation. This is the Foundation trilogy. This is the exact edition I read when I was 10. Now, this is an actual first edition of Dune, but my copy of Dune that I got from the Science Fiction Book Club had this exact same cover, but it was a book club edition, and it wasn't the actual book that I had. This is the actual bookstore, the over-the-counter version. Now, as I didn't grab I've got my Eternals omnibus behind me that I've shown many times, but you've already seen that. So these are properties I am deliriously excited for. And basically, in the space of a month, we're getting the adaptation of Asimov's Foundation books. We're getting The Eternals from Oscar-winning director Chloe Zhao. I mean, can you believe this? And we're getting Dune. Denis Villeneuve's Dune. Now, in the case of both the Sci-Fi Channel Dune miniseries and David Lynch's Dune, they were always budgetarily challenged. Now we're getting something where the director is off the reservation. He's been allowed to do whatever he wants to do, and it's going to be, I think, phenomenal. And we're getting the Foundation trilogy as well, and we're getting an adaptation of Jack Kirby's Eternals with other artists such as Neil Gaiman, other writers that have worked on the comic. But to me, to my mind, these are 3 foundational bits of imagination that have been a part of my life for a very long time. And the fact that we're getting them all writ large on either the IMAX screens or the television screens, or I within the space of basically a month, I can't believe it. And my excitement for these things is off the charts. So to all of those who accuse me of being a shill, I would say this. I'm just very fucking excited that these things are getting made. And while, look, I watched Mahler's analysis of Black Panther. I'm a Mahler fan. I think Mahler has a really good grasp of story. That both between The Critical Drinker and Mahler, who are, by the way, streaming together right now. Don't jump over and see them. Stay here. Go back and watch their stream when it's recorded. You know, you can do that. But I like them both. I mean, both The Critical Drinker and Mahler have a lot to say. And Mahler did a piece on Black Widow, and I have to say, brings up many, many, many good points. And he's not wrong. But I would say that my general default position to all of these things, working in Hollywood myself, and yes, it's true. if I can get people that go into the theater to see Shang-Chi, if they can also go on a second double bill to see Tango Shalom, guilty as charged. I worked on that movie for 5 years. It'd be nice if it made some coin in the opening weekends, because that has a lot to do with the fate of that movie. And if it does well, you know, because who doesn't want to see an indie spiritual quest family dance comedy fable? I don't know. But if it does well, that means it's going to be easier for me to make my next project. So, of course, I want people to go to the movie theaters. That's my business. I'm trying to get them to go. I want all of you to go. If you're in New York and LA on the weekend of Labor Day, there's 2 indie theaters in Los Angeles. I can't announce where they are yet, but I know what they are. And one's on one side of the hill and the other's on the other side of the hill. And I would be most grateful if you all turned out opening weekend, because that could change the fortunes of the film, which is all I really care about. It might not be your thing. So if anyone accuses me if I want to piggyback on, yes, that's the answer. Yes. It ain't show friends, it's show business. And I'm trying to do some business here. I worked on this little fakakta indie movie that I dearly love. And it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, certainly. But if there's any way that I can do anything to get people in the theater, I will, because that's literally my business. I mean, I don't mean it's like my business, not your business. I mean, it's my business. We want to get the movie in theaters so people can see it and pay for it. And so maybe one day I'll make money, so I'll be able to put a few shekels in my pocket, which I haven't been able to do. And, you know, I am not some Merchant of Venice Shylock here. I am the real deal. And that said, please, please, Disney, if you want to bribe me with going to the world premiere of The Eternals, I am all open. I'll be one grateful shill for you. And I have no problem letting everyone know that. But right now, I am not. I've never been paid for a movie review or a comment in my life. I honestly don't know if somebody offered me. Of course, every man has his price. Like if Alex Kurtzman said, "Rob, we really need you to stop talking shit about our Star Trek shows and jump on board for the big win," I'd say, "Alex, you want me to jump on board for the big win? It ain't show friends, it's show business. And you are going to have to pay me a lot of money to start talking about how much I love your goddamn terrible Star Trek show." And I'm waiting though. Alex, call me, send me an email, because it'll be expensive. You know, we're talking probably 5 figures, but you know, it'll be worth it for you. Don't worry, I won't go into 6, but 5, a comfortable 5. You know, not like a $10,000. Come on, make it worth my while. Pull out that old wallet. I mean, you've spent so much money on that Star Trek show. If you want me to shill for you, come on, give me a little taste. But anyway, I'm excited. I've been wanting to see Eternals, that Chloe Zhao's doing it. You know, I think that, like with Shang-Chi, I don't think even the trailer that dropped today tells us much about what the movie's actually about. I think now we have a very clear idea of what actually is going to happen, or what the plot of the movie is. Earth is imperiled. They have 7 days to save the Earth, and I'll leave it at that. But there's a lot of places where you can go watch speculation on the internet as to what's actually happening in the Eternals, and that's fine. I'm not going to be the one to dissuade anyone right now, but yeah, very excited. I'm also very excited for the Foundation series. That new trailer was amazing. I can't wait to see Harry Seldon and to hear all about psychohistory, and I want to see Trantor, which looks like to be one city I would love to spend some time in. I've been thinking about Trantor since I was 10. And going back to Arrakis, it finally looks like Denis Villeneuve is doing justice to the film. Now, how can you not be excited for these 3 different visions? I mean, we're getting literary adaptations. I know, Eternals is a comic adaptation, but to get Dune, I mean, really writ large on the big screen, and to get the Foundation series I mean, it looks to be, hey, look, I don't know, maybe it's crash and burn time, but it looks fucking great to me. I can't believe we're getting these 3 things within a month of each other. I mean, this to me is absolutely astonishing. And it speaks to a new era that we're in. The idea of these films, we finally have the technology to realize these kinds of movies on a grand scale. The visual effects exist. We can finally do anything we want. I mean, David Lynch, the effects in the original Dune, not great. I mean, they couldn't do ornithopters. I mean, they didn't know how to make wings flap. Now, of course, we've got ornithopters where the wings flap. And I mean, I've wanted to see that since I was 10. And now we get to see it. They finally, I mean, it wasn't like the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries with the thing. That wasn't exactly an ornithopter. And I can't believe we're going to get to see this. I am so excited about all three of these properties. And I'm excited because I wanted to see them for the better part of my life. Not because I'm a shill or someone's paying me. It's because I read this material back when I was a kid. And they've stayed with me, and there's things that I loved about them. And my God, someone's actually, Apple seems to have spared no expense. And what's not to love? And I would ask you, it used to be that the default position for fandom was excitement. Now, I understand, you know, in this day and age where a lot of our heroes and a lot of our shows and a lot of the characters we love have been, well, they've been we have to subvert expectations. I would say, yeah, but you can subvert expectations, but how about not fucking ruin our characters? Look, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. But when I look at something like the Foundation series, well, Rob, like, it's Dr. Kynes. I mean, come on. Dr. Kynes, they gender swapped her. They made him into a her. And like, I don't care. You know, I don't care. So she's Chani's mother. Do I care? No, I don't. I understand where you're coming from. You know, you can swap a character here and there. It doesn't necessarily mean... Look, I think that when Cara Thrace was turned into Starbuck and they gender swapped Starbuck, I didn't have a problem with that because the character was great. The character was integral to the success of David Icke and Ron Moore's new Battlestar Galactica. So it's very possible to gender swap or change characters and have them be great. My default position is not to get angry about something until I've seen it. And if somebody shits the bed, then I'm like, well, I'm the first guy to get up and go, well, that sucked. Why'd you have to do that? Hopefully I wouldn't just say suck. I'd give you a cogent, reasoned explanation about why I didn't like something. But my default position is we're getting Eternals, Dune, and Foundation in like a month of one another? I mean, to me, as a genre film fan, as a fan that grew up loving science fiction, fantasy, and horror, as somebody who's read so many science fiction books in my life, I mean, this is bonerific for me. This is an imagination orgasm that is endless. An endless stream of orgiastic imagination goodness. It's awesome. And, you know, hey, might they let me down? Absolutely. You know, the proof is in the pudding. But I have to tell you that these three things are positioned, things that I love, that I can't wait to see. You know, by saying this, am I shilling? No. I mean, maybe I'm shilling personally because these are things that I want to see come out and be awesome. But remember, shouldn't that be our default position as fans? I know. After watching a lot of stuff, it's easy to be jaded. I get it. I'm jaded too. I've seen Star Trek since 2009. It sucks, and I hate it. And it's the most expensive Star Trek ever made. Now, I know there's a lot of people who like it, and there's people new to the franchise, and God bless you all. Don't let me... Well, Rob, you're a gatekeeper. No, man, I'm just giving you my opinion. Am I telling you you shouldn't like something? No, a gatekeeper is somebody that keeps you from something. I'm not a gatekeeper. Just because I offer my point of view doesn't mean you have to accept it. I've hated modern Star Trek since 2009. But if you like it, I'm not going to tell you you shouldn't. I would never tell you you're an idiot for liking something. People like what they like. Don't let anyone ever tell you that something that you like, you shouldn't like it. Who the fuck are they? They don't know you. Don't let anyone else's opinion try and sway you away from something that you like. You know why? It's good to like things. It's good to like things. I like a lot of things people don't like. Hell, I like Tough Turf, which Fritz Kirch's follow-up to Children of the Corn, starring Robert Downey Jr., James Spader, Kim Richards, and come on, what's not to love? And Olivia Barish from Repo Man. I also like Hudson Hawk. Michael Lehman's Hudson Hawk. Is it great? No. Do I love it? Yes, I do. Does that make my opinion suspect? Very possibly. I love Star Crash. It's my favorite ripoff of Star Wars. Luigi Cozzi's Star Crash. Do people like Star Crash? Go look up the trailer for Star Crash if you've never seen it, and you'll be like, Rob, seriously, dude, do you really like that? Yeah, fuck yeah, I do. And something else I really love, Wild Wild Planet. Now, come on. If you watch the trailer for Wild Wild Planet, tell me you don't want that goodness in Blu-ray. Huh? Go watch it. Come back. I'll wait. Actually, I won't wait. I'll keep talking. But I mean, where is the joy? Where's the joie de vivre? I think all fans, it's like city slickers. We all need to go find our smiles. Now, I'm not saying it's a tough world out there. We've been burned. We've been burned by Doctor Who. We've been certainly burned by Star Trek. I feel burned by J.J. Abrams' Star Wars movies. I mean, I do. There's a lot of stuff that they've subverted it right into the toilet. And I'll freely admit that. But I loved fucking Shang-Chi. I loved it. It was not the movie I thought it was going to be either. It was a lot different than I thought it was going to be. I didn't expect to see a wuxia movie, a genre. You know, I was thinking about Last Hurrah for Chivalry yesterday, which is a movie, you know, back in, 79 or something? I was like, I love that movie. Sweetheart's Peking Opera Blues. It's different than that, but, you know, there's... And Once Upon a Time in China is coming out. Sweetheart's trilogy from Criterion. That was just announced. So look, man, my default position is I want to like things. When I get out of bed, I'm like, I bet this is going to be fucking awesome. You know, an ex-girlfriend was always like, why is it you always get so excited for James Bond movies where so many times you've been disappointed by them? I'm like, so I love James Bond movies. And sometimes you're not disappointed by them. So my default position for the most part, I mean, Star Trek, they've eroded away my goodwill because we've had to sit through 3 seasons of Discovery, 1 season of Picard, 3 feature films, Lower Decks, Prodigy's coming out, which, by the way, of all of the J.J. Abrams or the bad Secret Hideout produced material, I can't believe that the one I'm most interested in now is Prodigy, even more so than Strange New Worlds, because I'm like, really? I mean, do you have to go back and desecrate more of the classic series? But whatever. So I just want to say, you know, like in City Slickers, go find your smile. I think we all should. We should get excited. We're coming out of we're not coming out of anything. We're still in a pandemic. But, man, we're getting Eternals, Foundation, and Dune. I mean, think about it. We live in a world where these 3 movies were made, and Eternals was made by the woman that won the Academy Award for Best Director this year. And we're going to get Celestials. I mean, what's not to love? I don't know. Well, Rob, they've changed the characters. I get it. But you know what? It's not like The Eternals was not the greatest comic book in the world. I liked it. But frankly, it's a little goofy. So I know this. I'm not somebody who's like, oh, well, you can't. It's sacrosanct. Don't you dare touch Kirby's Eternals. It didn't even run very long. So to me, the concept was good. The heady nature of Kirby's imagination seems like it's intact. I can't wait to see how they caress it all into the MCU. I'm there for it. The same way I was there for Shang-Chi. And I loved it. I love Shang-Chi for what it was. It looks to me like I'm going to love the Eternals. I can tell from that trailer we're barely scratching the surface, like with Shang-Chi, of the joys of that film. So anyway, I just wanted to say, there's a lot of good in the world. And certainly, if you're an imagination connoisseur and everyone watching this channel is, fuck yeah, man. We got Eternals, we got Foundation, and we've got Dune coming. And lest we forget, in a couple of weeks, you're going to see Shang-Chi. And you can come back and you can say, Robbie, I went and saw it, and you're part of the Access Media. You were shilling for Disney. Come back and tell me that. Lay it on me, brothers and sisters, or however you identify across these 28 known galaxies. But I guarantee, if you open your mind and you open your heart, I guarantee that Shang-Chi will put a smile on your face. Why? Because it's just an entertaining fucking time at the movies. I have to tell you, I love the Fast and the Furious franchise, and I fucking hated Fast 9. I hated it. And I am a staunch supporter. I wanted to see Justice for Han. Talk about subverting expectations. Oh, my God. I wanted to love Army of the Dead. Zack Snyder remade one of my favorite movies, not just my favorite horror movie, my favorite movies of all time, Dawn of the Dead. I went into that movie expecting to hate it. I was like this. Show me what you got, Zack Snyder. Who are you and James Gunn for writing this screenplay? I liked it. I thought I wouldn't, but I did. That's why I was excited. Army of the Dead was the first movie that I was going to see after the pandemic. It was the first movie I was going to see in 18 months. It was my birthday movie, and Elizabeth and I went to see it, and I was very excited. I fucking hated it. I thought it was nonsensical, ridiculous bullshit. It didn't make any sense, and I hated it. And I'll freely say that. But when I went in and sat down, I was really excited. I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, this is going to be rad. Was it rad? Decidedly, it was not. Now, that doesn't mean you can't like it. I hated it. And I hated Fast 9. So, the third movie I've seen in the theater was Shang-Chi. And it was a movie that I didn't really know what to expect from. Wasn't particularly enamored of the trailers. It certainly didn't look like the comic series that I was interested in. Remember, post-X-Men versus Avengers, Shang-Chi even joined the Avengers at one point. And, well, that would be telling. I think you should all go see it with an open mind. I think you're going to have a fun time at the movies. And get back to me. You know, if you still think after watching the movie that I'm a Disney shill, well, you're still wrong. But I can understand it. I get it. It's true. So, anyways, yeah. So there you go. Colin writes in. Colin says, Hey, Rob. I listened to John Webb's letter about his 13-year-old daughter who has gone through school without hearing the name Adolf Hitler or gaining any knowledge of World War II. I wasn't at all surprised to hear that a child that age has no interest in such things. I did find those things interesting around her age, but mainly because of one reason. I loved stories. If you're wondering where I'm going with this, it's something I've asked myself a lot over the past few years. Are stories as important as people like us have always assumed? I learned to read at a young age, and like you, I had my nose in grown-up books very early. Dune, John D. MacDonald's Travis McGee books, Clive Barker, Lawrence Block, and many others soon gave way to Dostoevsky, Hemingway, Fitzgerald, Steinbeck, and many others. In school, I was taught about Vietnam, the Civil Rights Movement, and World War II, but not classic literature. I sought those books and many others out on my own because I loved reading, and I wanted to know why people love these books so much, and I found they were usually right. You know what, Colin? I found that about classic cinema, too. Not just classic novels. When I started watching movies, at first, because I was a science fiction, fantasy, and horror film fan, most of my young movie watching was in those genres. And then as I moved out of those genres and started really getting involved in or really wanting to make movies around the age of 10 and getting serious about it and broadening my horizons, I started to realize, like, wow, classic movies are great. And when I went to USC and took Cinema 190, the introduction to cinema class, I was able to see for the very first time. It was great because USC would show you these movies. I saw movies that I'd heard of that I hadn't watched because of the subject matter just didn't seem interesting, like Robert Altman's Nashville or Singing in the Rain. I've told the story how I owned the Laserdisc for Singing in the Rain but never watched it. And the first day of class, Drew Casper showed us Singing in the Rain, and I thought it was magical. I saw All About Eve. I had no idea what All About Eve was about, but I'd seen the picture, like when everybody's walking forward and they're linking arms. I'm like, I don't want to watch this shit, even though I knew it was Best Picture of 1950. When I saw All About Eve at USC, a print from the opening moments when George Sanders is narrating the opening at the Sarah Siddon Society award ceremony, I was 5 minutes into that movie, and I'm like, this, I already knew. I'm like, this is one of the best movies I have ever seen. And to this day, it still is. It passes the HBO test. If you're flipping channels, you go to 8. Well, you can't do this anymore because HBO's Max is streaming. But you usually, if in the old days when you'd come across a channel and you'd you'd flip the switch and something would come on that you loved. You just had to watch. It passes the HBO test. Got to stay on HBO and watch. All About Eve is one of those movies, as is Sunset Boulevard. As a matter of fact, there are two movies about show business that are very different aspects. One's about the theater, and the other is about movies and writing, and yet they're both, what a great double bill. I mean, my God, I saw that at USC, and I'll tell you, this is a true story. So I was at USC. I was a senior taking Cinema 190, and so it was mostly my younger class people. And I was so blown away by All About Eve that when the lights came up, everyone was gone. And I was the only one sitting in the beautiful, 500-seat Norris Theater on the USC campus. And there was Drew Casper, my professor. He was standing at the lectern. He was just looking at me, just kind of nodding with a big smile on his face because he knew I got it. He knew. And, yeah, it was good stuff. So anyway, back to your letter. So my point was classic cinema and classic novels, the same thing. And you and I, Colin, we park our shuttlecrafts in the same shuttle bay because we have a love of stories. Stories anywhere. To me, a great concept album, a good comic book, a great video game, Ghost of Tsushima, or whatever. Great stories are great stories. So you continue. I didn't mean to have a long, rambling interruption of your letter, Colin. So this back to Colin. I sought those books and many others out on my own because I loved reading and I wanted to know why people love those books so much, and I found they were usually right, as with classic cinema. As I listened to Mr. Webb's letter and your recommendations about starting with the story of Anne Frank, I found myself once again questioning the importance of stories. Some of the greatest women I've dated aren't readers. Some of my closest friends aren't readers. As far as being doomed to repeat history if we don't learn it, I'd point you to the great Christopher Hitchens, who reminded us that our inaction on Bosnia-Herzegovina reduced never again to a punchline. In the same episode as Mr. Webb's letter, you covered Kevin Feige rattling a tin cup toward the same country, commenting genocide against the Uyghurs and facing little consequences for it. Our excuse this time is simply, we need China, so we'll ignore whatever they do. Has knowledge of the characters of Tortilla Flat or James Kirk led us to any better wisdom than watching terrified people cling to an airplane during takeoff and shrugging it off with, well, they just aren't geared to having our kind of society? Hold on. I think a bug is in my mouth. I also think it's worth mentioning here that in a world of pundits who purposefully confuse news with entertainment and actresses pretending to be superheroes in front of a camera, with the exceptional reporting of Clarissa Ward, I've been watching, that's amazing. By the way, she's reporting out of Afghanistan, is worth pointing out to anyone, and she's a fantastic role model for any young girl, or any young man for that matter. I'm well aware that without proper education systems in place, we wouldn't have gotten Christopher Hitchens. But the reality is also that he was a very rare man. I am not advocating for skipping history or great literature and stories in the education of young people. I'm asking that we all put away the Hallmark card talk and honestly reflect on what the hell we adults have truly learned from history and those great books, because I don't know anymore. Thanks for reading, Colin. Well, I didn't know where you were going to go with that letter, but what a great letter. I mean, look, I have to tell you, I honestly feel the same way that you do. To read and to be a person who enjoys stories. After all, what are stories but examples? They're ways of conveying basic human truths to one another through narrative, which makes those stories and makes those lessons more easily palatable than if somebody just stands on a soapbox and jams them down your throat. And like Rod Serling said, a writer, no one wants a writer to give you a screed. So what you do is you tell a story and you hope people learn from that. Look, I think I still love stories, and I know a lot of people don't read. I don't understand that, but a lot of people, look, there's also a lot of, pragmatic, to me, storytelling and enjoying stories. Movies are one thing, but books, there's a lot of people that they don't have the attention span for it. And I understand that. I find, though, that people that don't read, you can be a great person and not read. But I think Storytelling allows you to contextualize things that happen in your own life. And I love it when people tell me stories about what happened to them during the day. It might be something rather innocuous, but if somebody has a riveting way to tell me about it, it can be a lot of fun. I think storytelling can only enrich people, not just listening to them, but also learning how to tell a good story, how to spin a good yarn. But look, as far as what's happening in our culture, I don't really know. I don't know, but I don't like it. So, yeah. Anyway, great letter. Great letter. Terry Pennington Jr. writes in. It says, Dear Rob and Mike, that's Mike Bodden, this letter is regarding the short story contest. I have of recent seen, several people have been showing, let's just say, their feelings on what they thought might have been on their film entries, but I can only speak for myself on what I think may or may not be to come, or Days to Come, a title to another Abbey story I may or may not write. But to the topic at hand, I am personally thankful that you are having this short story contest, and I am in no hurry for the outcome, for patience has its place among all of us. For in time, everyone will see if you are good, you will succeed. If not, then I look at it with this perspective. I was given the opportunity to share my imagination with you and everyone at the Post-Geek Singularity. Rob, one thing I can say about the short story competition is this. I see it as a chance to share imagination that is within all of us at the Post-Geek Singularity, to see what lies within another's mind, to reach out and say, come on in to a world in which a dream you had becomes a story for all of us to partake on a journey of one's imagination. Thank you, Rob and Mike. Take all the time you need, for in the end, we can all enjoy the fruits of the labor. For we all have one thing in common, and that is our imagination. To quote another, we are all goof people. Thank you, Rob, for giving me the chance to share my imagination with this short story competition. Well, thank you for that, Terry Pennington Jr. I very much appreciate it. Yes, we will be having, I can't, look, for me, what I want to do with the short story competition is I want to publish a book that I'm editing. I've always wanted to do that. I have a love of anthologies. I have many of them in this room. And to be able to publish a book like that, I can't wait. Cannot wait. This next letter comes from Paul Gilmore, one half of our own Twin Flicks, who recently their father passed away. Hi, Rob. Paul here, one half of Twin Flicks. As you know, our dad has been very sick the past couple of years, and last Monday at 10:30, he passed away. He was a major influence on both Simon and I when we were younger and motivated us to start making our own movies, buying us our first high-8 camera and soundboard, and he loved being in them, no matter how bad they were. He always encouraged us to do what we loved. But most importantly, our dad taught us what it meant to be a man, to be strong, to take care of those you love, and the importance of being honest and loyal, to not take shortcuts by kissing ass to get ahead in life, but to earn it on our own merit, to never take things too seriously and have fun. He knew exactly what I needed to get me out of a major life rut and how to move on. He taught us how to handle ourselves and be confident. One of his life's major mottos was, KISS, keep it simple, stupid, which I still live by. Dad gave us all the skills and tools we needed to become the people we are today, and we will always strive to be half the man, father, husband, friend, and person he was. At any age, we tend to think our parents will always be there, and if we take that for granted, and then one day, either one or both are gone. My dad touched so many lives and gave advice or a helping hand to anyone who needed it. There was over 300 people who attended his funeral, and each one had a story to tell of how Dad helped them and supported them. We miss him dearly, and I was hoping, if it's possible, to dedicate a show to our dad as a movie lover, a father, and an all-around genuine person that helped and loved so many. Even if it's just a simple shout-out to him or read this letter, it would mean the world to us. I've also included a picture of him a year before he got sick. By the way, he was a big Star Trek OG fan and taught us how to do the Vulcan salute and about what Star Trek is teaching us as a society. We love you, Dad. Sam Leon Gilmore. Please let us know, and thank you, Rob, Paul and Simon Gilmore from Twin Flicks. Well, guys, I think it's a good bet to say that today's Robservations show, where I was talking about what is, somebody asked me, Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentations of the women. I would say what is best in life is to have a father like you described. So, gentlemen, today's show is dedicated to Sam Leon Gilmore. Congratulations for having a fantastic father, and you reminded me a lot of my own father with the words that you said. So this show, which let's call it about the importance, or just things I'm excited about, stories that I'm excited to experience, stuff I think is fucking cool. Can I swear around your dad? He probably wouldn't have cared. But this show is dedicated to Sam Gilmore, 1947 to 2021. And I'm sorry for your loss, gentlemen. You become friends, and I really appreciate what you do. And I'm glad that I know you. And I'm sorry for your loss. This next letter comes from our own Braxton Bowles. 6, I think he's 7 now. You saw the video the other day. Braxton met William Shatner at the 55-year Mission Las Vegas Star Trek convention last weekend. Dear Rob, I went to the Star Trek convention, and I am sad I didn't see you there, but I did get to meet William Shatner, and he was really nice, and I even got my photo taken with him and got his autograph. When I asked him a question at the panel, everyone clapped, and the rest of the day, people kept coming up to me asking me if I was Braxton, and if I was the kid who asked the great question. I never had that happen before. It was awesome. I also met Denise Crosby, cha-ching, Garrett Wang, and a lot of other Star Trek people. Were all really nice, and I got lots of autographs. This weekend was a dream come true. I hope to go to another convention someday soon. Well, Braxton, your dad was a great man for taking you there, and I'm glad your first convention experience, and especially your first experience with William Shatner, was a good one. You keep being an imagination connoisseur, my friend, because we need more like you. And you give me faith in the next generation. You're a very accomplished and inspiring young man. So thank you for writing in. I very much appreciate that. You should write in more. You should write in more. And we did show the video of you. Well, you couldn't really see you ask the question, but we heard you ask the question. So thanks for that. This comes from Roberto Suarez, our own Roberto Suarez. Submitted as evidence of the general confusion regarding 2021's The Suicide Squad, also posted to the Post-Geek Singularity Facebook page, a conversation with my daughter. I thought Suicide Squad was with Will Smith. It is. But that's Idris Elba. Yeah, and the new one. What new one? The Suicide Squad. The Suicide Squad, isn't that the old one? No, that's Suicide Squad. Isn't that the one with Will Smith? Yes. No article. What article? No, the article in the original. What? The original was just Suicide Squad. This one is The Suicide Squad. It has the at the beginning. Oh, for fuck's sake. Does Idris Elba play the same character as Will Smith? No. Will Smith plays Deadshot. Idris Elba plays Bloodsport. What's the difference? Well, they're kind of the same character. They're both expert marksmen. So they're basically the same character. Well, they're the same type of character, but they're different characters. Does Margot Robbie play a different character? No, she plays the same character. The same character from Suicide Squad, Harley Quinn? Yes. And Idris Elba plays a new character that's basically the same character from the first one? Well, kind of, but it's a different character. Well, okay, does Viola Davis play the same character? Yes. Anyone else play the same character? Jai Courtney and Joel Kinnaman, they play the same characters from the original. So this is a sequel? No. Well, no, is it a remake? Well, no. Well, what the heck is it? Well, it's kind of a sequel, but kind of a reboot. So some of the actors play the same characters as the originals. Some play new characters that are basically the same as the original ones. And it's not really a sequel, but it kind of is. And it's also kind of a reboot? Yes. And they called it the same thing? Well, it has the at the beginning. The what? The. The article the. Oh, for fuck's sake. That's a conversation Roberto Suarez had with his daughter. I can imagine that this conversation or something similar was had in many houses across our land. So, yeah, I like that. That was very funny. Very funny. That was very amusing. Ben Gibbons writes in and says, "Hi, Rob. I've recently purchased the Next Generation on Blu-ray. I was wondering why we don't have Blu-rays of Voyager and Deep Space Nine. I've read your article from 2017 about why you don't think we'll get a Blu-ray edition of Voyager and Deep Space Nine. Do you still feel the same way, or is there hope of Blu-rays in the future? Keep up the good work, because you're a legend, my man." Well, Ben, thank you for writing in. I appreciate the kind words. Do I think that we're going to get Blu-ray editions or even 4K editions of Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Voyager? Probably not. And I think that they should. But here's the thing. Converting the Next Generation to Blu-ray, to HD, was a 4-year process. It just took 4 years to do it. A lot of people don't understand how difficult it was to do this. Basically, look at it this way. When they were converting Star Trek, well, actually, when they were restoring it to 2K, what they basically did was, imagine that they had just shot every episode and they're putting it through post-production. That's what they had to do. And so they had to go back to literally thousands of boxes of original negative. And the Next Generation negative was meticulously stored. They really could pretty much find everything, with a few exceptions. But they were able to find what they needed. They had all the notes, and they took all of the negative that was originally cut. So they took all the circle takes and everything. They scanned them, and then they basically color timed them. And what they also had to do was, in the case of Next Gen, the visual effects were all shot on film, but they were composited on videotape. So one of the amazing things about the Next Generation restoration is a lot of the ship shots and everything, you'd never seen them look that way. You'd never seen anything look that way because you were looking at NTSC videotape was 640 by 480. I mean, it was terrible. 2K, 18, it's not quite, it's a little bit more than 1080 by 1920, but you're looking at 6 times the resolution, basically, if not more. And they recomposited the visual effects. It looked incredible. It was incredible. But it took a team of 30 people working for 4 years to get it all done, all 178 episodes. And the problem is that's expensive. And to deal with Deep Space Nine, really, to do it right, you have to go back to the negative. And Deep Space Nine was not stored as well as TNG. So that means you have to have a team of about 30 people going back and doing what they did, scanning all that footage, cleaning up effect stuff when the film had shrunk or anything, using CG to composite everything. Pardon me, they were using computers to composite. The ships, for the most part, they used film elements and composite them together. Sometimes they had to do an entire digital replacement shot, which they then had to recreate from scratch. But it took a long time. And the only way to do, people are like, well, Rob, what about deep learning AI? They can extrapolate on the information. Maybe one day we'll get there. But look, you need to be able to go back and get the negative to do it properly. And, I mean, to do both Voyager and Deep Space Nine, unless you're going to commit more funds, you're looking at another 4 years per show. I think they should. They should future-proof it. And, frankly, they should do both Deep Space Nine and Voyager at 4K. The problem is Voyager has mostly CG effects, and they would have to then re-render them at 4K, and probably it would be a nightmare. You'd have to go in and clean up the VFX shots. It would just take a long time to do it properly. And we all want things done properly. So, yeah. So there you go. That's probably why it is not ever going to happen. I mean, I'd like it to happen, but yeah. Didn't happen yet. Wow, you know what? Here's a letter from Mikey Lito. But you know what? I'm gonna read this. I guess it was from Midnight Metal, but I'm gonna read it anyway. Our friend Mikey Lito writes this in. One day, after sending you a letter about how I don't watch Midnight Metal, I decided to watch episode 36 of the program because of the highlighted topic referring to ScarJo versus Disney. Good evening, Rob and fellow members of the Post-Geek Singularity, along with the beloved Blue Wrenches. A special hello as well to Dave Parker and Tom Connors from Midnight's Edge. I have a what's up with that for each of those people, but I'll save that for another time. This letter is not about either the aforementioned lawsuit or those other contributors, but rather a topic that came up in both halves of Midnight Metal, episode 36. It's about James Cameron's Titanic. In my mind, the superior movie about the Titanic disaster is Roy Ward Baker's 1951 film, A Night to Remember. I suppose it's difficult for younger audiences to get involved with the 1951 film. After all, its look is dated, it's in black and white, there are no currently recognizable stars, and there's no enveloping love story to carry the narrative. James Cameron lifted whole scenes from the 1951 and inserted them into his narrative. Rather, A Night to Remember was a straightforward telling of the Titanic disaster with all the information available at the time of filming. There are some differences in the way the sinking was depicted between the two films. A Night to Remember told the story through the eyes of the highest-ranking ship's officer to survive the tragedy, Charles Lightoller. In the Cameron film, Lightoller is but one of several characters focused upon. Both films are melodramatic, but the lack of a romantic storyline in the 1951 film cuts the running time by over an hour. For those who like physical media, both films are available on Blu-ray. A Night to Remember is available from Criterion in 1080p, currently 54% off at Amazon at $18.40. James Cameron's Titanic is listed on Blu-ray.com as no release date, but is available in 1080p from Paramount at $18.95 for a Blu-ray DVD 4-disc combo, or $11.99 for a 2-disc Blu-ray release. Both versions have a digital code attached. For digital fans, A Night to Remember is available for $14.99 on Prime Video and iTunes. James Cameron's Titanic is available for $16.99 on Movies Anywhere affiliated VOD services. Ciao for now, Mikey Lito. Before going to bed on Sunday night, I scanned the trades for late updates on Jungle Cruise box office numbers and ScarJo versus Disney. Instead, I saw the stories referring to the contract extension of Alex Kurtzman by Viacom CBS. I immediately scanned the YouTube listings and sure enough, was presented with Robservations 729. I sat down and watched, and I'm delighted to see you didn't have an aneurysm. One person and company I feel has escaped your wrath is Rod Roddenberry and Roddenberry Entertainment. It's my opinion that he's at equal fault with Kurtzman and Secret Hideout. What do you think? Well, I like Rod Roddenberry. True story, I was working for a little while for him, looking at all of the outtakes from the original Star Trek series, and I made recommendations to Trevor Roth, and they didn't want to take them at the time. Eventually, they did exactly what I said to Trevor they should do, and it kind of led to a little rift between me and the Roddenberry company. But I'm a huge fan of Rod Roddenberry's, and I love what they do. But I think Rod's protecting the flame, but I think that also, the fact that Paramount gets him involved, I don't think Rod has really much say, and I do think he's a pretty good guy in his own right. So I wish them all the success in the world, and, they're all getting paid. So if it'll keep the Roddenberry legacy going, it's Gene Roddenberry's 100th birthday this year, and they're celebrating. They announced a Roddenberry. Since you brought it up, there's another story of something else that happened today that I think is pretty damn cool. So I'm going to mention it. I can't believe I didn't mention it, but I'm going to mention it now. Let's see. I'm going to find it. I'm going to pull it up, and we're going to share it. We're going to share it together. And let's see. Let me put this up because it is a Deadline article. Hang on. Give me just a moment. Just a moment. I've just detected a fault in the AE35 unit. I'm just kidding. I'm not Hal. I mean, I like Hal. So Let's get this in there and see if I can. Okay, here we go. So this just dropped. Let's talk about. Speaking of Gene Roddenberry, Mikey Lito, let's talk about this. Here he is. This obviously was in Deadline today at 11:17 a.m. Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry biopic in the works with You Don't Know Jack scribe Adam Mazer. Patrick Hips wrote this today. Here's an exclusive. Here's some news that's fitting for a day that would be Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry's 100th birthday. That's today. Roddenberry Entertainment has been working quietly on a feature biopic of the TV sci-fi icon, and there's a script by Adam Mazer, whose credits include the Emmy-winning script for the 2010 HBO movie You Don't Know Jack, which starred Al Pacino as Dr. Jack Kevorkian. Producers include Star Trek caretakers Rod Roddenberry and Trevor Roth, who executive produce all current franchise series, including Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard. Next up, the development will be finding a director and actors. There's no shortage of subject matter surrounding Roddenberry, the fighter pilot turned LAPD cop turned TV writer who survived 2 plane crashes in the rough waters of Hollywood to create Star Trek, one of the world's most endearing sci-fi franchises, with the original 66 to 69 TV series eventually spawning spin-offs, movies, books, and a legion of hardcore fans. Gene led a remarkable life, said his son Rod Roddenberry, and Roth, who executive produces all the current Star Trek series, including Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard. He was an incredibly complex, compelling man whose work changed the face of television and whose ideas changed the world. It's time to share Gene's story with audiences everywhere. Roddenberry's original Star Trek ran for 3 seasons on NBC and starred several actors: Leonard Nimoy, Nichelle Nichols, Majel Barrett, DeForest Kelley. He worked previously on series like The Lieutenant and Wrangler. Having fought with and don't forget Have Gun Will Travel. Having fought with studios in the past over diversity in casting, the crew of the USS Enterprise reflected his inclusive worldview. It is a staple of the Star Trek universe that has endured through several feature-length movies. Star Trek the Motion Picture, helped by the box office success of Star Wars, launched the film franchise in '79, and TV spin-offs, beginning with the successful Star Trek The Next Generation, which Roddenberry helped get off the ground and contributed to the first 3 seasons. Gene Roddenberry died in 1991, but the franchise is going full force. Is it? With the spin-off series and, once again, movies. On the latter front, Deadline recently scooped that WandaVision director Matt Shakman is coming aboard to helm a Star Trek movie that has a script by Lindsay Beer and Gina Robertson-Dwart, the first Star Trek film to be written by female screenwriters. Well, let's remember, Dorothy Fontana wrote for the original, so did Margaret Arman, wrote for the original series, and they were breakthrough screenwriters themselves back in the 60s. Meanwhile, remembrances are pouring in on social media today, celebrating what would have been Roddenberry's centennial birthday. The Roddenberry Foundation says, the human race is a remarkable creature, one with great potential, and I hope that Star Trek has helped us show what we can be if we believe in ourselves and our abilities. StarTrek.com says, today we celebrate the life and legacy of Gene Roddenberry on what would have been his 100th birthday. Help us celebrate by sharing what Star Trek means to you. NASA says, in Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry showed us a future where individuals from different backgrounds work together to explore something we strive to do today with you. Join us in celebrating his 100th birthday by posting a Vulcan salute selfie tagged Roddenberry 100. I'll do that. I haven't done that yet. So, Michaelito, there you go. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. I like that. That was good. So thanks for bringing that up. Now let's see, what are you guys saying? Let's jump over to what you are saying. Let me go back down and see where we're at here. Where am I? Okay, here we go. Tony Barrero sends in a tip. Tony Barrero says, is there a piece of media that sparked your love of filmmaking? For me, it was 2 DVDs I bought as a teen with my first paycheck. I obsessed over the special features for months. X-Men and Superman Returns. How wild to find out you worked on both. Many thanks. Yes, that's good, Tony. I did. I produced both of those discs, all the special features. That represented a lot of work. A lot of work. I'm glad you liked it. That's nice to be remembered that way. So thank you for that. That was fun. I mean, I'm still really proud of that documentary. Actually, both the X-Men and X2 discs and Superman Returns are pretty packed to the rafters. Willow says, so you don't believe in mayo on hot dogs? Have you ever tried a teriyaki sauce and mayonnaise hot dog, though? I have not, but I could see how that might be kind of good. We have a Japanese fusion hot dog stand in Vancouver called Japadog that rose to prominence because of them. They are awesome. Well, Willow, I would never presume to debate you. I mean, if it's just mayonnaise, I can't deal, but teriyaki sauce I dig, and I could see them working together and to provide a fine environment from which to eat a hot dog. By the way, Raj H, thumbs up from Raj H, sending in a Super Chat sticker. I can only assume it was thumbs up, Raj. Thank you so much. The lovely Emma Bannon says, hey, Rob, I wasn't really excited for Shang-Chi, even though I saw the trailers until I heard your reaction to it and saw the trailer on a cinema screen before The Courier, which, by the way, is a must-see. It made such a difference. I'm glad you feel that way, Emma, because it does. So yeah, I'm you're gonna like it. It's just a balls to the wall epic fantasy film. Jerry Mannanen, all the way from Finland, says Eternals trailer looks amazing. I think it does too. I love the tone of it. Very different from a Marvel movie. I can't wait to see what they do with it. And grats on the milestones. Well, thank you. I very much appreciate that. Hopefully we'll keep going and have more milestones. I'll have to, it's kind of funny. I miss seeing people on the Midnighter. I got to do the Midnighter. Maybe I'll bring it back once a week. And to be honest, now that Tango Shalom is going to be out the door, maybe I can bring the Midnighter back. Okay. I know I like to say the lovely Emma Bannon, but sometimes she does things like this. Rob, last night, whilst I was sleeping, I recited the entirety of The Lord of the Rings. Yes, that's right. I was Tolkien in my sleep. You know what? There's just water in here. But after reading jokes like that, I need alcohol. Just saying. Yeah. Anonymous says, I can't wait to see your movie, Rob. Being stuck as I am in the Bay Area, I'll have to wait till later. If you'd like me to shill for your movie, I'll do it. I accept Monopoly money and Scooby snacks payable directly to my PayPal account. Well, you know who makes really good homemade Scooby snacks? The Funkalicious Zephyr Chan sent my Pooches her homemade gluten-free doggy treats, and they are shaped as, well, I guess Scooby snack. They're shaped like, dog bones. My dogs went crazy. I might as well. They were kind of like a cookie thing, but I felt like after seeing their reaction that I should have crumbled them up and just done fatty rails of her dog treats and had the dog just hoover them up off the floor. I thought about that, but I figured, probably not the best thing for the dogs. Magic K sends in a super chat and says, I'm not very confident about that Foundation TV series. I personally do not trust David Goyer's writing. He wrote a lot of bad scripts. Well, Magic K, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I even rewrote David Goyer when we were working on Full Moon's Arcade because he wrote that movie. But come on, Magic K, Hope Springs Eternal. He made a Foundation series. It looks pretty epic. Pretty damn epic. Have you watched the trailer? It looks pretty good. I think it looks good. Squirt Russell sends in the super chat and says, I'm not going to see Shang-Chi. Nothing could beat the mix of fantasy and foo in Big Trouble in Little China. No part of me was dry after watching that. Well, I'll tell you something. Like, I love Big Trouble in Little China, but even it was an American wuxia movie. You look back to like Zoo Warriors of the Magic Mountain, which is what inspired a lot of that stuff. I mean, It's the same kind of thing. I'm not saying that Shang-Chi is as good as Big Trouble in Little China. It's a different kind of a movie, but it's not a bad comparison. Not a bad comparison. And I love Big Trouble in Little China. Kevin sends in a super chat, but you should see it. Don't miss it. If you like Big Trouble in Little China, go see Shang-Chi. Kevin sends in a super chat and says, so much to look forward to. Venom 2, Halloween Kills, Dune, Spider-Man, The Many Saints of Newark, No Time to Die, Top Gun 2, The Matrix, The Book of Boba Fett. For another COVID-infested year, I can't complain. Kevin, a good point. There's so much good stuff. I just scratched the surface with these 3 science fiction properties with big ideas in them. But yes, I mean, my God, the posters alone for Venom 2 made it worthy of song. And yeah, Halloween Kills, that's a great list. Who would have thought we're going to be getting a Sopranos prequel that looks great? It looks great. I never would have thought that. I mean, come on. You're absolutely right. Fantastic. Brendan Sheehy, our own Brendan Sheehy, says, Rob, if the stars aligned and Tango Shalom sold out all of its theater showings opening weekend, then what would you approximate the opening weekend box office? Oh, it wouldn't be that big. I mean, it depends. I mean, I don't know, 30 grand, 40 grand, 50 grand, something like that, depending on where it's playing. But see, it would be really, really good for us because it's opening in 4 theaters. Now, we're going to roll out across different theaters over the next 2 months before it goes to VOD. But if it had a great showing, this is why it's so important. If Tango Shalom, which is a movie that cost, well, let's just say it costs less than Titanic, far less than Titanic. Let's say it had a good opening weekend. All we would need is in the trades that would be listed. You know, indie darling Tango Shalom has a big opening weekend. I mean, it would be big for the movie because what happens is when you get put on VOD, most movies are just, alphabetized and Tango's toward the bottom of the alphabet, T. But if it does well theatrically and they put it on the front page so it'll do better on VOD. And eventually, if the movie earns out and breaks even, and admittedly, it doesn't need that much to break even, but still, it's a tough road. It's not everyone's cup of tea. It's a goofy, Borscht Belt, heartfelt comedy. But there's already somebody on the IMDb said, this is the worst movie I've ever seen. It's worse than The Room. I walked out of it. I'm sure someone who wrote that knows me, so thank you for that. But hey, so that would be something. That would be good because then its per screen averages up. Like if you had 4 theaters and each theater had a $10,000 per screen average for the weekend, that's good. That's good. So we'll see. Our friend Jack Wallace, he the father of Aiden Wallace. Let's see. Oh, I moved them around. I had some of Aiden's action figure work that's being displayed in the Robservatory. So Jack Wallace, Aiden is of course our resident action figure photographer, and Jack tells me that Aiden was able to get some Shang-Chi figures in advance, so maybe he'll be doing some pictures that we'll get to see. My nephews are over watching your show today. Oh, I swore a lot in this show. Guys, I'm sorry. Don't say fuck around your folks, okay? Don't say bad language. No motherfuckers, no shits, none of that. Don't do that. So my nephews are over watching your show today, and CJ would like to know your favorite, what your favorite episode of Star Trek is. Ooh, CJ, that's tough. That is tough. There's so many. But it's hard to say what my favorite overall Star Trek episodes are because there's so many original series episodes, but I'd have to go series by series. But a couple, I'll give you some of my favorite episodes off the top of my head of the original series. I think the Corbomite Maneuver is a classic Star Trek story. Everything you need to know about Star Trek is in the Corbomite Maneuver. It's one of the early episodes of the first season. Balance of Terror, Errand of Mercy, The Doomsday Machine, Mirror, Mirror. Those are just a few. The Immunity Syndrome is one of my favorite unsung episodes of the original series. As a matter of fact, I tell people to watch it. I love The Immunity Syndrome. It never gets picked as one of someone's favorite episodes, but I love them. So thanks for asking me that, and I'm sorry I've been swearing. Terrier Tiberius Mork, our friend Terrier, is in Norway Says, not to tease, well, I'm lying. Did you know your favorite Norwegian, your words, not mine, will be seeing Dune September 15th? What? 5 weeks early release in little old Viking land. So psyched. Well, Terrier, I think you need to come on live on the show and give us a live Norwegian perspective of Dune. And you've been on Midnight Metal. Come on, you can do it. You're good on camera. As a matter of fact, I insist. We're gonna get a review on September 15th. Book that, son. You're coming on the show. Book it. Book it. We're doing it. Factual Opinion sends in a tip and says, I just saw Star Trek 4. Yes, it's playing today, right? In honor of Gene Roddenberry's birthday, Fathom event, right? I just saw Star Trek 4. It's the first old movie I've seen in theaters. I'm hoping my movie theater will show Star Trek 2 and 6 next. I'll tell you a funny story about Star Trek 4. So I went to the Evergreen State College, and you used to be able to get things called emergency loans. And I think an emergency loan was up to $300. This was back in '86. So my friend Taylor White had tickets to see Star Trek 4 at the Motion Picture Academy on Wilshire, the Samuel Goldwyn Motion Picture Academy Theater. So I was in Olympia, Washington. I got an emergency loan from the college, and I flew to California to see Star Trek 4 with Taylor at the Motion Picture Academy on Wilshire Boulevard, which is one of the great movie theaters I've ever been in. And that was 35 years ago. 35 years ago, I guess, November, because it is, what, the 21st? Yeah, right? Because it was 86. So, yeah, that's what I was doing. Don't tell Evergreen. I paid it back. Richard sends in a tip and says, why are they selling Foundation as some kind of man against the state epic? Wasn't Harry Seldon wrong? Does anyone actually point these things out in script development meetings, or do they and then find themselves unemployed? Well, Richard, I'm going to hold my tongue. I mean, is Harry Seldon wrong? Shh. I think they're trying to sell it in the way that people can understand it. I think that's the way they're trying to do it. So, I liked it. I like the trailer. I hope it's good. Rob Chipek. Rob Chipek says, hey, Rob, I appreciate the kind words. Wanted to know if you're available the weekend of October 30th and are willing to shill for Eternals for a hot toy figure and $233.69. I'll also get you a $25 gift card to In-N-Out. What do you say, old pal? Rob, count me in, man. Count me in. And if you're getting me a hot toy figure and $233, I can get any hot toy figure, right? Because I really would like to get the quarter scale Iron Man Mark, was it the Mark III? I'd really like that quarter scale figure. And you didn't specify what kind of hot toy figure. You said you'd get me any hot toy figure. And I want a quarter scale Iron Man figure. And you said I could have it. So I'm going to hold you to that, buddy. Hold you to that. But yeah, I'm ready to shill for you. I would ask this, though. I'd love to have Chloe Zhao on this show and interview her. So make that happen, too. And we got a deal, hombre. I'm selling out to you. Brendan Sheehy sends in a tip and says, Rob, I always get a giddy thrill when I see more of Tom Vaughan Lawler, Ebony Maw in the MCU. He is a great Irish actor known for the Irish show Love, Hate. Rob, you'd like it. A down and dirty, gritty gangland drama set in Dublin. Well, you know I have a third-party figure of Ebony Maw on order from Toys Wonderland. Watch, Hot Toys Sideshow won't like me anymore. But yeah, he's a great actor. I loved Ebony Maw. I thought he was so good. And I can't wait to get that figure. So yeah, I'm a big fan of his. Big fan. Richard says, it's funny how Brandon Braga didn't even like Star Trek, and he did a better job keeping it all together than those folks who claim they like it now. Well, even back then, I think Brandon was better educated. You know, Brandon ended up coming on to the Next Generation as the Writers Guild intern. He didn't even know what show he was getting on, and he wasn't particularly enamored of Star Trek necessarily, but he got that. He kind of fell into that, which I thought was pretty cool for him. I really like Brandon. He's a funny dude. But his writing is a bit hit and miss for me, but he's written some good episodes of Trek. I enjoy that he's got sort of a twisted horror brain that he brought to the proceedings. So that's pretty damn cool. So, yeah. And on that note, everyone, I think it's time for me to say adios. I'm going to bring this show to an end. I have work I still have to do. I want to thank everybody who's here. Thank you for supporting the channel via Super Chats and tips. Very much appreciated. And I especially thank everyone who's writing letters in. You can do so free of charge if you go to the Burnettwork.net website. So you can send me a letter, contact us, and I'll read it on the air. If you want to send me a private letter and yell and scream at me or call me a Disney shill over and over again, and you're not going to post it on the live on the comments section, just write me and say, here, I'm writing to tell you you're a Disney shill, but please don't read this on the air. I will respect your wishes. So there you go. Let's see. And I want to thank my moderators, Joshua Levesque, Bunyan Snipe, Brian Hepburn. Thank you all for being here and being the wrenches that you are. I don't know if Louise X Sparrow is here. Thank you, Louise. Louise has a great voice. I love listening to the dulcet tones of Louise Sparrow's voice. I've always believed that everybody who has an English accent, especially one you just washes over you like Louise's, they're just that much smarter than we are. But anyway, I want to thank you all. Thank you for being the blue wrenches that you are. I very much appreciate that. And remember, this show tomorrow is going to be the last day of Robservations for at least a week. Think of it as a summer vacation for this show. So I'm not going to be streaming, I don't think. If I pop up, it'll be lucky. You'll be lucky. Because I'm going to Portland to direct Crisis Medicine. So I will be gone. Elizabeth, the girls, and the dogs will be here, but I will be gone. So I hope you don't miss me too much. And hopefully if I can get them done, you'll be seeing some programming dropping, including RM's own show, the PGS All-Stars, which hopefully will have programmed for tomorrow if I can get to them. It's been a lot of tango work happening. And on that note, I want to remember this too. I want to remind all of you that remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And with that, I would say to everyone, have a better day. And I do, in fact, mean that.